what we mean by self-advocacy, because I feel like there can be misunderstanding and misuse of the word in like or typical conversation. Um, what is self-advocacy, Kristy?
Yeah, so to really narrow down what self-advocacy is, sometimes it's more helpful to look at what it's not, because a lot of us end up integrating it with a lot of other things and thinking it's the same thing, which means that our self-advocacy ends up being ineffective because we are calling it something different. And a couple of the things that I see being tied in with self-advocacy and prioritized over self-advocacy a lot of the time is activism and advocacy for others, right? And there's a big difference between those two things and our own self-advocacy. One of the ways that I like to think about it, and it was a clinical supervisor that introduced me to the metaphor, and I've just ran with it ever since, is the 3 hats analogy. So there are 3 different hats we can wear at any different moment when we're showing up for ourselves and other people. And we have our activism hat, which is the one that we often feel pressured to put on, unless we're showing up on our own timeline for that, right? And it's the one that is very loud, it's not sugar-coated, it is a demand, it is a push for societal change, and it's done in community. We're never really doing activism alone. And so that's when we're showing up big and we're overriding our own fears, and we're showing up in groups and community to say this is enough. It's very loud. The advocacy hat is one that you can't wear at the same time as you're wearing your activism hat, because advocacy for other people is about meeting them where they are, right? It's a lot softer. Some people say it is the sugar-coated piece, and it's working with an individual to move them forward from the point that they're already at. And so it's less about making demands and more about collaborating or even making demands of other people on behalf of someone else, right? It's on the individual level, and it often is done alone, right? We might be the only person showing up to stand up for another person. And it's usually dealing with another individual or a singular company or something that's not on the systemic macro level. And before you wear either of those hats, we have to wear the human hat, right? And that's where the metaphor sort of falls apart, because we're just human, right? You got your skull on before you wear the hats. But your human hat has to fit underneath any of the other hats that you're putting on. And if you're having to take off your human hat to show up in activist spaces or in advocacy, then you're not engaging in self-advocacy, and you're going to end up burnt out, and it's not going to be sustainable. We always have to wear our human hat first. And that's where self-advocacy is. And so if we're tying our activism and our advocacy for others into that same piece, that's where it's going to start getting a little bit messy. Thinking if I have a really quick definition of self-advocacy, and I think it really is being the person that you need to end up in a life that is sustainable and comfortable for you.
The person that you need in order to end up in a life that is stable and comfortable for you. Did you say stable or sustainable?
Both work, but I said sustainable, but stable is, on some levels, if it's stable, it's sustainable.
Yeah.
On others, it's stable and it's not going in a direction we want. That's a different conversation, but it all sort of fits together.
The person that you need